so welcome. I'm delighted some people could join us live. That was not the plan at the start of the week, but you know, we like to evolve. We like to give ourselves a little bit of unknown, and so why not, Lisa, as we were
Why
saying,
not?
why not?
Exactly.
But
Why
if
not? We're here.
we're here, we might as well. So really appreciate people taking the time to listen to what we have to say about burnout and what it means and where we've come from on that journey, etc. And just so everybody knows, we are recording. Hopefully that's okay, but everybody's on mute and everybody's cameras off, and hopefully that works for people. And we will get into the conversation as soon as I think the last person's in, because we don't want to interrupt. So this is really a conversation. I think that's the best way of putting it. And it's to discuss burnout and some very practical, actionable steps that people can take to navigate their way through burnout. But as Lisa and I were discussing just a few minutes ago, we were saying, what if we could even help people prevent getting to that state or that situation? And so it's recognizing what might be going on for you and then taking some of those steps that really make sense for you. It's not about at the end of, you know, the 6 weeks that you have 12 things that you need to do. It's really about picking one or two that really float your boat, that really resonate with you, and that you think you want to prioritize. And that's really what this is about. So Fiona, do you hear me? Lisa, I knew it was
I have been called a lot worse than Fiona, so I'll take that. Fiona's a good name.
You know what? I told myself I was going to call you Fiona, and there it is. So, you know, Lisa, my beautiful friend. So I want to introduce Lisa. Lisa has so many skills and talents. It's like unbelievable. She's where I want to be in my life. So Lisa is an executive coach. You've done mindfulness, teacher training. You are a yoga instructor, which I know because I did lots of yoga with you through COVID and kept me sane through all of that. And as far as I know, you invest probably predominantly your time in leadership development as part of your business arena. Is that fair to say?
That's exactly right.
Beautifully. Did I miss anything?
Not at all. I mean, and I love the kind of the myriad of skills that you attribute to me. And I think we teach what we need to learn. So I teach mindfulness and teach yoga because I need to practice them to try and keep myself sane. But yeah, absolutely. The coaching and facilitating and leadership is really where my heart and mind are. So I've been doing it for the last kind of over 10 years now, left the corporate world. So know that bit, know what it's like to change careers and how scary it can be to do that as well. But I've never looked back, I have to say. It's been great.
There's a bit of a theme with the people who are joining me over the 6 weeks, Lisa, and I did want to say this is not a billboard for people to say, screw the corporate world, I'm out the other side, I'm off, because there is a bit of a theme with some of us. Thinking about it earlier, maybe it's that we were experiencing burnout and didn't have that opportunity to stop and pause and find a way of navigating through it without, you know, completely extracting ourselves from that environment and then making the decision, you know, maybe the corporate world isn't for me. What we're hoping with these steps that we're going to offer, you know, very practical and actionable, is that you decide for yourself what you want to do, and it's not this big massive life decision. It doesn't have to be. It can be, but it doesn't kind of have to be. Is that fair to say?
That's absolutely fair to say. Nobody wants the come to Jesus moment, Neve. None of us want the come to Jesus moment. And I think the real benefit of you doing something like this is I don't know about you, but like when I left the corporate world back in 2009, I didn't have the words for burnout. Like I didn't have the awareness. I think it's so brilliant that we're talking about these things now, because had I had an opportunity to even recognize what was going on for me, I probably would have made the same decisions, right? But I may have made them in a much less dramatic fashion. And the come to Jesus isn't really helpful. We don't have to destroy everything in order to be able to rebuild it. It's really about understanding that a lot of us are on automatic pilot, right? We've been told this is how we live our life. And actually there's lots of choices. It isn't impossible to take 2 weeks off like you talked about with Fiona last week. It is possible to, you know, balance your work and your family, and they all have value. You're not just measured by what your title is and how much money you earn and what did you produce today or this week. And I think these kinds of conversations can really help people to understand, okay, I get to decide. I can decide what success is, and I can take, as you say, practical, actionable steps that enable me to stay at my center and not do what I did and go over the top and leave it all behind in this blaze of glory. So yeah, that would be really great for people.
I know. So maybe just share a little bit about what went on for you. What were the symptoms that were kind of showing up, and at what point did you recognize then that this is not really how it's supposed to be or has to be?
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's a bit like the boiling of the frog. The temperature just went up and up and up and up. I was a good girl. I got my grades. I went to college. I did business. I ended up in marketing. And I woke up kind of mid-30s with all my boxes ticked, right? I had 3 beautiful children. I had a lovely house. I had a head of job in a global multinational. And I was irritable and anxious and fearful and stressed. I was kind of hanging on by my fingernails. But actually, if you had asked me, Niamh, I wouldn't have said that I was burnt out. I would have said, I just need some simple, actionable, practical tools in order for me to,
head-based, all intellectually, if I
exactly.
then I
yeah.
can tick the box.
Don't give me any of that airy fairy nonsensey stuff. None of that get in touch with yourself rubbish. Just, I need a better time management system. I think
totally.
And really, so what happened was the organization I was in the middle of a reorg. My job was not being made redundant, but it definitely gave me pause to see that there were people who were really in fear of losing their jobs. And when I thought about that, and colleagues that I was really close to, there was a sense in me of like, what if the freedom that might give you, that sense of like, there was fear and trepidation around it, but there was also a sense of kind of possibilities. And that made me think, here was a job that I loved, that I was really good at, that I was really very invested in. But I had gotten to the stage where I really was feeling short of breath in my body. I was feeling anxious in my body. I was snapping at my children and my friends and my family, and that irritability. I didn't really like who I was becoming. And then this sense of possibility that others would have. That was what.
Did that just come to you one day, or where did that thought kind of land? Because I know with me, I never had that thought. All I was thinking was I was burrowing deeper and deeper into it, and thought, like you, if I just did X, it'll sort it. But X was more work or better time management or manage my diary better.
Yeah, I mean, I was really, really lucky. I had a great manager. So shout out to Jerry McQuaid, who was the commercial director that I was. We love Jerry. And I went to him and I said to him, I really think I need some mentorship, and I need, it was all about the kind of how do I get to the next level. And he said to me, I think what you need is a bit of coaching. And I was like, really? Coaching? You think? Whatever. And so he sent me to a coach by the name of Ian Kingston. Again, shout out to Ian. And I remember my first session with Ian, I was saying to him, so I need a new time management system, and I need to get myself organized, and I have to delegate more to my team, and like all the stuff that we talk about.
All the stories we tell ourselves,
Yeah. He said, why are we here? And I was like, oh, yeah, I need to have better time management, blah, blah, blah. And he started kind of looking around him. Now, remember, I'm paying, as a coach, we need to be really focused on the other person. He's looking all around him going, I am starting to get really hacked off this guy, right? Hang on a second. I'm the client. I am paying you money. I have sacrificed good time that I don't have to be here to talk to you about this.
I'm
totally getting in a complete snot. And so I just stopped talking. I was like, I can't believe this. And then he turned and he looked at me and he said, no, really? Why are we here? And I went, so it was a total vent for me to be able to, and it was that space that enabled me to kind of put words on exactly what you're talking about, Niamh, those feelings that we have, of never enough time, never enough money, never good enough, never tall enough, never thin enough, not enough. And that's what I started to explore with him, was this not enoughness. in the context of work. So it wasn't like we didn't go into, family of origin and deep meaning and stuff right at the very start, but it was having that little bit of space. And it's the reason why coaching has been kind of where my heart has been since, because
I
it's
didn't
that
know that
space.
story. So you kind of came to coaching through your own experiences of it. Okay, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay.
And just the ability to be able to stop, because I think that's the whole thing, is we're running.
Yeah.
And any time something like that comes up and we're feeling fearful and anxious, instead of stopping and being with it, what we're doing is, we're having a glass of wine, or we're watching another thing on Netflix, or we have this busyness, this distraction. It's never been easier. Phone, tablet, social media, all of those things that are brilliant, don't get me wrong, but are also, they take us away from really tuning in to ourselves. Our body is talking to us all the time. Our life is talking to us all the time. Just a lot of the time we're not listening.
Yeah, just completely finding ways to distract yourself, to help yourself feel better, and whatever that is. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. It was really funny. I have a teenage daughter now, and she's had a hard time over the last couple of weeks. And the physical manifestation of which was, yesterday I must have gone to the door 7 times. Shoes, the parcels just kept on coming. And that's
retail therapy.
That's retail therapy. That's it, exactly. That's her numbing, her comforting herself. And to be very, there's nothing wrong with any of those things when we realize that's what they are. And yet we're missing out on so much information when we can connect to ourselves first.
Love it. Thank you for sharing that. And so I think what I'd love for you to share is your wisdom around the kind of movement piece and then the mindfulness piece. And, we can talk about some of the practical actionable steps as you go through, and we'll sum it up at the end, but just maybe talk to us. So you came to coaching via your experience of coaching. Love that. But maybe talk us through how movement played a part in helping you come out the other side of the burnout piece and you making your decision to leave the corporate world, etc.
Yeah. So I think the exercise piece is really funny, because it depends where you're at with these things, right? So I tried yoga when I was at that kind of like, I just need a new time planner journal thing. And I was like, this is too slow, need to move. So I originally got to exercise by running. Right? Okay. Just go to show you, what are you running away from? I was running away from myself most of the time, but it was a brilliant way for me to kind of get into my body at a place that I could meet myself at, right? So, people will say to you, do yoga, just do whatever exercise that gets you into your body, because we're so disconnected from our body, right? So like, if you're standing on your head, great. If you're doing Pilates, great. If you're swimming, great. If you're cycling, great.
Right or wrong, really, is there? I think it's, so long as you do the right reasons, to your point.
Yeah, for sure. So running, loved that. And then the universe, the world is talking to me. I busted my knee, basically. So I had to find something else, because I really learned that for me, that was my headspace. I never ran very far and I never ran very fast, but I was outside and I would have a blast of wind through my head, and that was what I loved. So I went back to yoga, but I decided none of your airy fairy nonsense yoga for me. I was going to do power yoga, hot yoga, rocket yoga, Ashtanga yoga, like hardcore yoga. If anybody's ever done Ashtanga yoga, it's a very fast-paced, set sequence, physically challenging practice. But I really loved it, because it gave me some of the same kind of adrenaline as the running did, but it was a very different kind of movement. And the more that I did it, the more I started to realize, oh, okay, this is not what this is, right? So I ran the same way as I did yoga, the same way as I did anything, harder, faster, better, 110% stop and go. They're the only 2 gears that I used to have. And so I used to go at it. And then I was like, oh, okay, this isn't a competitive sport. It isn't about actually making the shape. And so that's when I started to explore other kinds of yoga. So vinyasa flow, a little bit less kind of full on, then power yoga. And then with the deep irony of it now, as we were just talking about, I now love and teach yin yoga. And yin yoga is like the least amount of movement you could possibly have, right? It is find a pose, find your edge, soften into it, and stay there for like 3 to 5 minutes.
I do want to make a full confession. Lisa and I were talking about yin yoga about 5 minutes before we came on. I am a non-convert to yin, and I was saying I need to go back for that very reason. You know, every yoga teacher I've ever gone to has said, you know, touch in with your, where's your body at, you know, go inside. And I'm like, I don't know what that means. That sounds like BS to me. I don't get it.
Yeah.
And it a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more, and you get glimpses of it. And when you get a glimpse of it, you're like, oh my God, this is what it's supposed to feel like. But yin didn't do that for me. Yin brought me to a place that I didn't like because you have to stop. And you're in that pose, and guess what? You meet yourself in that pose. I'm like, oh, get me out of here as quick as possible. I only have 30 minutes for yoga. I needed to get my heart racing, come out the other side. Yin is powerful. So I've committed to Lisa that I'm coming back to yin. Is it Sunday? You have a class Sunday?
Sunday night and Tuesday night. We have a wonderful yin class. And it is exactly that. That is like, I completely resisted yin right at the very start. I thought, like I said to you, I thought it was like statues, which I should probably be bothering yours. Could get no benefit out of that stuff altogether. And there's two things that first thing that you've really highlighted there is it's like you're in your body. It's not about using your body to make a shape. It's using the shapes to kind of get into your body. So you meet yourself where you're at. I love that Emma loves yin yoga. So we have
seriously.
But the other thing that it really
to your loving of yin. Yeah.
The other thing it really taught me is the thing in yin is it's like you don't go to like 110%, which is what I used to do. You've got to find a 6 or 7 out of 10. And I was kind of going, I didn't know what a 6 or 7 out of 10.
Yeah, you always have to learn that, don't you? Yeah.
Yeah, how do I titrate my experience? And usually it's like, oh, I've gone too far. Let's come back then. Yeah. But it's that how do I find that middle way? So I think that's the really valuable part of it. But for me, you know, the thing about movement is exactly that, is just move your body so that you can feel your body, get into your body so that your body's talking to you all the time. All the time.
You said the same last week. And, you know, Fiona said that she didn't listen to her body, and it culminated in quite a medical condition for her. She lost a lot of her hearing, and she wears hearing aids now. And I was so grateful for her to share her story. So our body is constantly telling us. And can you just give us a little bit more around how then people can align the movement with maybe some of the symptoms that they're experiencing, and what can actually happen as a result of, you know, allowing this movement space and allow it in maybe?
Yeah, so I mean, when you get in touch with your body, when you can stay, if we think about kind of how we move through the world, there's how do we feel, how do we behave, and how do we think, right? They're kind of 3 legs of the stool. A lot of us are all about like, what am I doing? How am I showing up? And we know that we have this narrative, self-critical voice in our head, but we don't know how to get rid of it, right? So this thing that's trying to keep us safe. And so when we hear that critical voice, or when we feel uncomfortable, we lean away from it. Whereas when you're in your body and you can stay with kind of like, okay, so I'm feeling anxious. Where do I feel that? Like, really bring your curiosity to it. You know, some of us feel it like a knot in our stomach, like a tightness in our chest, like a being caught in your throat, really shallow breathing. And when you notice those things, rather than trying to push them away, very often if you move in a way that, you know, feels into it a little bit more, the movement is you're giving your body what it needs. So you're starting to loosen up maybe some of the areas that are stuck in your body. So very often we will hold tension and stress in the fascia. The fascia are the kind of connective tissue in our joints. And this is why yin is so powerful, is we're working with these connective tissues where you stretch into that area. So for example, anger gets traditionally would be held in the hips. So, you know, if we do hip openers, that will very often release anger. Creativity is in the side body. The lungs hold grief and freedom. So you can kind of, even if you think about heart openers or back bends, can be very opening and start to help us to feel really connected to ourselves. So the movement can be when you're finding yourself stuck somewhere, move into it. There's a wonderful woman by the name of Marcella Widrig, who I've done some work with on, and she talks about, she has this technique of, you embody something. Now this sounds really heavy, but if you embody something like shame or fear, what would that look like in your body? And generally speaking, it's very contracted. And then she would bring you through a way of opening up so that you use your body to process what's going on in your mind. And we just forget about the body, right? We forget about how we're feeling. And the movement is to help you to connect, but also to help the feelings to move through you. Punch a pillow, shout.
Yeah.
Shift it. Yeah.
Shift some of that energy blockage or whatever term serves you, especially if you're feeling burnout, right? We know the symptoms. You're feeling stuck, you're feeling cynicism, disassociation. And our bodies have memory, so it's going to remember all of that. This is not the first time you've maybe had some of those experiences. Maybe it's just not for so prolonged a time. So your body remembers some of this stuff. So just by movement, it doesn't have to be yoga, just what you're talking about with yoga. That's why we're kind of focusing on it. But as you say, it could be literally anything. Is just getting yourself moving is going to help maybe shift some of that stuff. So by the very nature of the movement, and then thinking about the movement and what it means, you're going to maybe shift through some of that energy that's stuck there and allowing it up and out is the term I like to use with my clients.
Exactly. And have you ever seen a dog when a dog has been in a fight or he's been in fear? What does he do afterwards? He shakes it off. He shakes it off, right? And so literally put on Taylor Swift and shake it off, right?
I love it.
Yeah, there's a guy called Peter Levine, and he wrote, or is the Bessel van der Kolk, one of them wrote a book called The Body Keeps Score. What do we do when we are in shock? We wrap people up, we wrap them around, we hold them tight, when in actual fact, as animals, we need to process it and let it through our body. There's a guy called Jeff Warren, who's a meditation teacher, and he has a shaking meditation, which is brilliant. And yeah, the thing that I think is really interesting about the mindfulness is everybody thinks that it's a very cognitive experience to just sit in lotus position with candles and incense and chanting, when in actual fact this is probably not the time, if you're burnt out, to start a meditation practice, right? But what you can, that traditional meditation practice, what you can do is come into the body. The body is always here, using the body as a portal into and a gateway into the now. And simply, like if you're washing the dishes, feeling your feet on the floor, feeling your feet in contact with the floor, grounding,
feels the best ever.
Yeah, the weight of your body, the earth receiving you, supporting you, keeping you safe and solid, really coming back into the body, finding the breath in the body, feeling it in the belly, feeling it in the chest. Even just doing one thing at a time can be a meditative experience. Washing your hands, brushing your teeth, waiting for the kettle to boil for a cup of tea, feeling your feet on the ground. This kind of free range meditation, right? Rather than feeling, like you said, Niamh, it's not about giving people one more thing to do on their big, long list of things to do. You don't have to. I did MBSR, which is mindfulness-based stress reduction. And I remember the first time I did an MBSR class, they bring you in and they lie you on the floor and they start with a 45-minute body scan. And I remember lying down going, I don't have time for this. I could have half a day's work done in 45 minutes. What are they talking? How I did both up off the floor and out the door. I don't know. I really don't. You don't have to do a 45-minute body scan. 1 minute counts. 2 minutes counts. Just sitting, feeling your bum on the chair, your feet on the floor, feeling into your hands. I call it kind of head, shoulders, knees, and toes, so feeling into the body. I'm just taking a few deep breaths, and that will,
I think the breath is So important, Lisa. Like every video I've put out, I think the last year I start with the breath because it does help you to come back into yourself. And I love the mindfulness piece. I couldn't agree more. To me, the meditation is brilliant, and it can be a candle and incense and you sit for 45 minutes. It can be. But who has time for that, particularly when you're in the middle of burnout, right? But you can literally pause for 30 seconds, put your feet on the ground, take a breath, and be right here, right now. If you did that 3 or 4 times a day and you've never done it before, you are going to start to feel better. I don't know if you agree. I can't guarantee, but you know,
I don't know. I tell you what's really interesting. I don't know if you start to feel better, but I can tell you that other people will notice a difference.
Okay.
Because I remember when I started my practice, and I started literally with kind of 5 minutes a day, and what relaxation techniques, you know, because if anybody had told me they were teaching me how to meditate, I would have run mad. More of this rubbishy, what are they telling me? So I started very, very small, and I remember thinking after a couple of weeks, I don't know if this is making any difference at all. I mean, I don't really feel any difference because it's tiny little things every day that get you to where you are, that bring you to burnout, right? All those bad habits. So to come back up, it's tiny little habits every day, little micro steps that bring you back up. And so it's a bit like losing weight or gaining weight. You don't really notice because you're in it and with it. But I do remember other people saying to me, you know, you seem a little bit, you know, kind of brighter, lighter. I wasn't snapping as much. I wasn't losing my stuff as often. Don't get me wrong. We all still lose our stuff, but it's other people will really start to see the benefit of it before you do. That's been my experience of it.
Amazing. So your environment, by the very nature of you doing the work, is going to improve, and then kind of that spiral in the right direction, I guess.
Yeah.
Just in the interest of time, if we were to sum up 2 very practical, actionable steps that people can consider that's going to help them navigate through burnout if they're experiencing the symptoms. And ideally, as we said ourselves before we came on the call, is what if you even took the steps and prevented burnout? That would be the best place to be. But whatever it is, wherever you're at, what are the 2 things you would say people can take away with that they can consider actioning?
So there's 2 things that I would really recommend. The first is movement as play. Movement as play, right? Okay. No purpose, not trying to lose any weight. You're not trying to build your abs. You don't need to do yoga. You don't need to do anything other than play. What is joyful movement for you? Dance around the kitchen, whatever it is. Get into your body, really start to connect. And the second thing is to be here now, right? To take a couple of moments every day to kind of feel into your feet, feel the weight of your bum on the chair, reconnect with the body, because mindfulness is a physical practice. It's not a cognitive practice that come into the body, so that your body, your heart, and your mind are all in the one place at one time, which is an unusual kind of occurrence. Just see if you can do that for a couple of breaths.
Okay. Practice, just practice it. Try it, see if you like it.
Yeah.
Find something that works. Find something that helps you feel like play in that work.
Well, you know now, Niamh, because we've done yoga together of a morning. We've done a vinyasa flow, and I will say, play with crow, and everybody will go. I can see your faces, well, even though you're all muted. And the reason that I say play with crow, which is something that I know that some people can do and some people can't, it's supposed to be fun. It's just yoga. Stop taking it so goddamn seriously. So that's why I say movement is fun. Try new things. Think about it as play. You don't have to be the greatest runner in the world. You don't have to be a big yogi. You don't have to be Lance Armstrong or a great cyclist. Just do it for play.
Enjoy it. I love